And now a matchup of old school. Stats and Ryung. I mean, Ryung has got to be he's one of the oldest, if not the oldest players still active in the scene. Stats, he went off to military. He came back and, well, he's been looking good. There's a difference between looking good and winning a GSL. It took Hero a year. Let's see if Stats can do it a little bit quicker, or at least make it to the final match. That'd be nice. Even if he doesn't win GSL, making it to the final match would be a good second step, because first step is qualifying, and he's done that one. But I'm excited to see what Ryung has in store for us, what Stats has in store for us, because again, Ryung is this brain trust of Terran, is the best way to talk about it. He's the Lambo of Terran, at least Lambo of Korean Terran, where he's not the best player, and I mean no disrespect, but he's not Maru, he's not Oliveira, he's not not even maybe Gumiho, although his TBT is very good. But what he is brilliant about the game. He's got a really good read, and he defines builds. Much like Lambo is not Cyril or Raynor, but there's a reason that Raynor won the World Championship when he had Lambo coaching him. It's the same idea. So, I mean, and of course, we also know that Ryung, he broke Protoss back in, what was it, 2020? 2021 Katowice, where he had this 6-minute stim timing. That, the meta going into that Katowice was this idea of a oracle into blink, right? You get an oracle, you move, it's a delayed blink, you have all this map control, you have high ground vision, you have a stasis trap, it's so much power and so much pressure. But the one thing it doesn't do is deal with a bunch of stim marines with combat shields at 6 minutes. The build was not designed to deal with that. So he knocked out Hero, he knocked out Creator, he knocked out I think it was actually Showtime was the only Protoss to take maps off of him, or to beat him in a series actually. So it was a lot of fun. And Stats is going Phoenix play. Interesting. This is an early Marine opener coming out of Ryung as well. In fact, it's not just an early Marine opener, it's a 3-racks. And against a bunch of Phoenix, traditionally when we say, okay, well, you know what? 3-racks is pretty fantastic against a Stargate opener. Generally we're talking about oracles, but same idea with the Phoenix. You just don't have enough lifts. You don't have enough HP to make sure that all your Phoenix survive and get multiple lifts off and kill off all the Marines. So for now, the Pro is going to look for a scout, and the scout it will not have, as the Marines just hold the ramp. And honestly, 5 Marines at this stage in the game is really not enough to tell Stats what's happening. It's not enough to give him much of an inkling. You're going to have that amount of Marines for the most part anyways. So now, Marauders are on the way, getting added in. More and more Marines as well. And at least Stats is adding a Robo before the third base. This does seem like it will be Phoenix Colossus, something like that. And if he figures it out, if Stats figures out what's happening, he can drop shield batteries. He can chrono out Immortals and absolutely hold this. But he needs to figure it out. And the problem here is that he's keeping his he's keeping his Phoenix at home. You know, he's not running across the map. He's not getting harassed. But as I say that, it seems like he actually does have an idea about what's happening here. The lack of Hellions, the lack of mines, I guess, tipped him off enough. So we're getting an Immortal chronoed out. We have 4 Phoenix on the map, 2 Stalkers. That 1 Immortal will be done just in time. But this, if Stats tries to take a third base here, it's going to be rough. It's going to be pretty bad. Yeah, so this third base is an immediate cancel. The Stats, I said I thought he'd figured it out, but no, the Phoenix are on the other side of the map, so that's a third base cancel. We're going to see a pylon go down here as well, and now, well, Stats kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Scan goes up on the high ground, sees that, yeah, there are a couple sentries, so Ryung wants to bait this. He wants the force fields to go off. He wants to make sure that oh, no, he just catches Stats when he's distracted, and the sentries get targeted down. Shield battery goes down immediately. That's a dead Immortal as well, and Stats is dead. Yep, there we go. He caught him off guard. He caught him off guard. Game 1 saw a 3-racks just kind of end the game. Unceremoniously, in fact. But game 2, it's Gressvan. I don't know that we're going to see a similar idea here. It seems like that's kind of a once-in-a-series thing, especially as we get on the bigger maps. So let's see if stats can hold on and we get game 3. I truly don't. I really don't know what we're gonna see out of. I could see a Stargate. Actually, you know what? We're gonna go out on a limb here. I think we see Stargate from stats in this game number 2. I mean, we saw it in game 1 and it didn't work, but honestly, that was kind of worst case scenario. And you're not going to see. You're not going to see it on this map. You're not going to see a 3 reacts. Highly unlikely you see a 3 reacts on Grespon. It's just so big. Grespon is such a big map. So that does, of course, excuse me, does give you a little bit more opportunity to play a little greedier, to take advantage of what a Phoenix opener offers you, which is map control, which is anti-drop play, which is a really powerful army in the mid game. But on the flip side, it's always kind of this mental game, right? When we're talking about Starcraft, or when we're talking about series planning, where sometimes the thing that makes the most sense makes the least sense. Or you don't want to do the thing that makes the most sense because your opponent is going to be prepared for you doing the thing that makes the most sense, and therefore you don't want to do it. So it's going to be fun here to see what side of the coin stats is on. In fact, Great Twilight. So we're not going to see the Stargate after all. Stats maybe moving in for Blink, something like that. We can see Dark Shrine plays. Keep your eye on the gas is really going to be the play. But for now, the Reaper plays Ring Around the Rosie, high ground, low ground, up, down. Here we go. And he's going to find his way into the main. Oh, man. Ryung here just with a dazzling micro. Absolutely dazzling micro. You love to see it. So he's going to go. Is he going to get out, actually? No way, right? No, that's not allowed. But he's going to play his way down on the low ground side. Stock is not going to get a shot off. And that 1 KD8 charge, it keeps Ryung alive. It makes sure the Stalkers don't get the kill. And that means a rescout later on. That means stats can kind of do more things. It means he can, or Ryung, excuse me, can do more things. He can figure out what his opponent's doing. Now, the downside of what happened is I don't think he saw the Twilight. No, he did. Never mind. Okay. And there we go. DT is on the way. Dark Shrine, it goes down. It's a robo as well, so DT drops. And I don't know how I feel about DT openers in the modern meta, actually, as Ravens were nerfed in their build cost by about 50 energy in the patch that went live right before Katowice. And what that meant is that now Terrans 99 games out of 100 they will open Dark Shrine, or they will not open Dark Shrine, they will open Ravens, because why not? You can afford it. It gives you a lot of power in a push. Even if it's a charge lot army, you can anti-armor missile and it makes your bio that much better. And if it's a Colossus opener, I mean, it's great. And you can still afford your defensive tanks. So we will have that Raven. You have that almost always, unless it's a 3 racks opener, something like that. And Stats is doing this blind. He's hoping that Ryung goes for something that does not get a Raven. But again, the plurality of Terran openers at this point, they get that Raven. So the Warp Prism is on the other side. Dark Shrine just about done. Now the DTs, there they go. They warp in 3 of them. This is effectively a PvZ build, right? You get 3 DTs, you harass around with him for a little bit, you see if you can find something, maybe turn him into an Archon later on. And I do like that Stats is splitting this up a little bit. So DT into the natural is going to get, it's going to get the tank, and that's actually really nice here. Master Repair is just going to be a little bit late, so workers will fall. But in the main base, there's really not a lot there. Raven does deny the damage, but the DTs stay alive for the moment. So, a couple SCVs. Raven rotates on down to the natural. Stats thinks about maybe rotating over, but instead, it's going to be a 4th Dark Templar. It's going to be an Archon. And, man, into a Raven. I don't like this at all. All you got to do is, and it's not easy, certainly. I mean, you have to be careful, but all Ryung has to do is wait for the Archons to get dropped. You drop a lockdown, you drop a shutdown on the Warp Prism, like right now, and Stats is not paying attention, so this is a dead Archon. Second one, gonna have to get recalled here, and there we go. Hull damage? No, not at all. But he loses an Archon for free. And now this was 4 DTs for 4 SCVs and a tank. Not 0, but it is absolutely not worth it. I mean, look at the gas losses here. It's just Yeah, Ryung has technically lost more, but you lose so much on map control, you lose so much on tempo that it's not worth doing. So now Ryung, stim just about done. It's a 6:30 stim timing, not that really aggressive 6-minute stim we were talking about. But with +1 a little bit further off, with combat shields a little bit further off, we're not going to see him move out until those upgrades are going to be complete. And, Stats does have his third base. He's got Charge on the way. He's adding in Immortals. He's got that Robo Bay. But I can't believe that Stats wasn't playing that as if it was something. Normally when we see players go in like that, I think back to Parting is a really good example. They are shading over that. They are sitting right on top of the Archons when they go for that Archon drop. They're making sure that if the interference matrix goes up, they're picking it up. They are very, very careful with it. But Stats, it felt like he was worried about a Viking or something, so he was keeping his Warp Prism back, and then, well, the Raven shut it down, and it was just, obviously that did not work out super well. But Stats knew there was a Raven. He saw it with the DTs. The DTs, the Raven was the reason his Templar didn't get much damage, so playing like he was afraid of a Viking just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And yeah, in general, I think this series has been a story of Stats' decision-making being a little bit questioning. So, oh, the SCVs are going to get pulled. This is fun. This is going to work out for Ryung. There's no splash. One Colossus will be out, but Colossus is not enough splash damage to deal with this army. You really do want Storm, Disruptors, Archons, something like that. And then we got one Archon, one Colossus. And this is a dead Stalker. By the way, Blink is not done. Charge is, but yeah, this is going to be rough here. So Colossus gets shut down immediately. That's a massive anti-armor missile as well. So the bio continues to move forward. The force field doesn't do much at all. So now the bio kites backwards here. The tanks staying alive. More Marines moving on in. The Immortals are getting evaporated here. And the Colossus goes down. Warp Prism does what it can to keep the Immortal alive. But it just does not really seem to be working out all that well. Yeah, 29 SCVs are dead. That's absolutely true, but this Colossus is going to have to do everything here for Stats to stay alive, and imagine what would happen if he had to. Imagine if he had saved the Colossus instead of the Immortal. I think his hold is maybe a little bit more likely, but now as he loses the Robo, that's only one Colossus, and we're looking at 4 tanks. I mean, yeah, I would love a Viking right now. It would make Ryung's life so much easier, but even still, just kind of stay outside of that range. And Ryung is maybe not microing quite as well as he would like. He's losing Marines to this Colossus that I don't think he has to. But even still, I mean, this is looking pretty promising here for Ryung. This is looking tremendously promising for Ryung. But he does have more Warpins. A couple Archons, a bunch of Zealots, +1 attack is done, armor done in 5 seconds. And that is going to be, if Stats is going to try to make a hold, it seems like that might be the opportunity, but he's still down half the supply as like a bunch of probes. They go low, but okay. Colossus. There we go. Colossus now try to find their way in. 13 probes at the deck. 17 probes. So all the probes on the right side will go down. Colossus still trying to find the value it can. The bunkers just buying time, buying room here in the tanks. They are somewhat exposed, actually. So 3 of them, they go down very quickly. But the shutdown on the Warp Prism means that this Colossus cannot stay alive. Bio tries to get on top of it, but the Warp Prism, the shutdown times out. And that's going to be really, really nice here. But the bunker, there's still one. So I'd love to see some Marines inside of it. It seems like they're not going to. And instead, they're just going to sit behind it. So Zealots, they're going to get on top of some of the Marines, sure, but we still have these 2 tanks here. And the Viking, oh, the Viking, so important. So now the noose continues to tighten here for Ryung. The longer this goes, yes, he's only on 24 SCVs, and that's important to point out. In fact, he's like 23 maybe. He's pulled a couple SCVs forward to repair, but he's got mules. And Stats is not mining efficiently out of these 44 probes. I mean, what's in the main? It's not a lot. It's 4 mineral patches. The natural is super saturated. Stats, this economic advantage he had is not nearly as big as you might think it is, as now probes are going to get pulled. Zealots as well, as he tries to make the break happen. The bunker on the back line is doing so much, but 2 tanks, they will continue to fall down. Here, Stalkers blink forward. Archons are going to get targeted right on down. The Stalkers as well. And yeah, you know what? This Colossus will stay alive. That is true. I really think Ryung might have been able to get one of them, but everything that was buffering for the army has gone down. As I say that, though, these supplies are getting closer and closer and closer. What once was a 50-60 supply lead, it's now 30. And yeah, that's not great, but it could be a whole lot worse. So now the Zealots, they're going to charge forward here. The Sentries, they're not going to last long at all. That force field gets 1 Marine. A single Marine is not enough at all to make this happen. So Stalkers, they blink forward. And this, this DT on the other side is an interesting idea. It's only 2 command centers. We know that Ryung is muling heavily, so you send a DT across and maybe he shuts down some reinforcements, and that might be Stats' hold. He does get a Marauder. That's something. But missile turrets, they immediately go down here. Ryung is aware of the possibility, and the Vikings, there's just not a lot of anti-air. Even still, Viking does go down. DT gets a couple SCVs, and I mean, they can pull themselves back into the main, but there's no mining there. So Stats, it feels like he's getting very close to a break. But now the Liberators join the fray. This is worse. Because you had the techs, great, fine. It's area denial on the ground, but now you got the Liberators as well. It's area denial in the air. It's harder. It's a more complex composition. It's harder for Stats to deal with. He has to blink on top, and he really doesn't have enough Stalkers. So the DTs try to knock the reinforcements down, but with combat shields, they don't have enough damage to one-shot. So these Marines, they're going to go down a little bit slower than you might think, even as the DT eventually deals with this. But how does Stats break? 2 Colossus is powerful. We have Archons. We have everything else. Ryung tries to be a little cheeky, stims a Marauder forward, tries to maybe bait some aggro, but it's not going to happen. And now, okay, I love this. Hallucinated Immortals just to try to tank a little bit. Zealots run forward. Stalkers get on top of 1 Liberator, but there are 2 more here. Tanks firing as well. And this is actually looking like it might be working out pretty well for Stats, but as I say that, all the HP goes away, and it's just 2 Colossus in the end of the day. Immortals, Marauders, they're going to get on top of the last Colossus, knock it down with the last shot. And yeah, the Vikings dead. There are 3 Stalkers here now in the tanks. They continue to move forward. They continue to knock everything down. And yeah, the reinforcements, they have been a bit problematic. They can't really find their way on the other side, but man, this just doesn't feel viable for Stats anymore. The army's too small. He's building these Archons. He's trying desperately, but every time this happens, every time he goes for a break and it doesn't work out, the army moves further forward, even as the supply gap is smaller again. And Stats does have upgrades, so he's going to try it one more time. Archons move forward. Zealots get on top. 1 tank will fall, and a second one goes down here as well. So it's just Marines here now. Maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe Stats has this after all. And it seems like at the very least, he's going to force this back. But he's not mining in the main. He's mining only off of 4 mineral patches right now. His economy is so broke. So if he doesn't break this, it really is a problem. It really is a tremendous problem. The bio's going to stim forward. Tank sieges up once again. If Ryung gets the Colossus, he can break through. But if he doesn't, it is continuing to be problematic. So now Archon's falling down. This Colossus so low, but there's only 1 tank to really deal with it. So War Prism, well, it's going to stay alive. Shield Battery Overcharge is a powerful, powerful thing. And it seems this tank is dead. Yeah, the Zealots get on top. Finally, the last of the tech of Ryung is gone. Certainly, there are Marines and there's this bunker, but Ryung is going to have to back up. His push is stalling out. And what a game we have. So now Ryung, he's got that 3rd base. He's dropping tons of mules, and his economy, let's watch it skyrocket. Well, actually, this is what we want to do. We're going to see it spike pretty hard in Ryung's favor. And there we go. Spiking pretty hard. I don't know if Ryung should have kind of taken this third a little bit earlier. On the one hand, you know, economy not great. But on the flip side, we do have this issue where it was a little bit harder. If Ryung took that third base, it was always going to be a little bit harder for him to defend his reinforcement line. And given the random DT or two, it seems like Ryung just wanted to make sure that there was kind of only one opening, only one attack path that zealots or DTs or something could find their way in, which I don't blame. That makes a lot of sense. But Stats is, you know, he's kind of stabilized too. He's not mining as much at the moment, and again, this income graph is pretty hefty. By the way, did we ever equalize army supply? No, not really. I guess there was a brief moment where it was close, but this has been a game of Stats just trying to decrease this gap and never quite getting there. And now, Ryung, now that he's got mules, we got a wonderful proof as to why. Oh, the Warp Prism goes down. Stats can't afford that. The Warp Prism is why Stats is in this game. But it really is this wonderful bit of proof about why you don't want to base trade a Terran. And this is not a base trade, but the argument number one is, well, you know, Terrans are so mobile with their medevacs, they can lift their structures and it's fine. But the other one is that if you get in this weird scenario where, you know, things are done and you can't mine properly and the economy gets weird, but the game continues. A Terran has mules and you don't, so you have to build an extra base. They can drop their command center anywhere, and it's a lot quicker for a Terran to reestablish their economy. So now Stats has done such a good job of stable. I cannot get over how good of a job Stats has done stabilizing this game. But just because he's stabilized it doesn't mean that he's in a good spot right now. It just means that he bought himself 5 more minutes. And now we're going to see Stalkers blink forward. They didn't get much. The Stalker will fall. And now the tanks continue to move forward here. So many Marauders, so many tanks. And we have one shield battery. We have one shield battery at the third base. It's already out of energy. And there is energy for an overcharge. So that's something. This is going to be a rough hold coming in from Stats. That army supply gap is, again, a pretty significant thing. But let's see if he can do it. 4 Marauders. They run forward. They're looking for the bait. Or they're just going to get the shield battery. And now Stats cannot hold on to this position. He's got to give it up immediately. With the shield battery going down, you cannot hold on to this position if you're Stats. So he's going to run a couple Zealots onto the other side, but there are Marines, there are Liberators here. It really does not, it's not going to be able to get all that much done. So Stats, he loses his third base pretty soon after getting it. And he's going to have to take the fight right now, but the Bio stims forward here. There's so much splash damage. The force field, it's not doing much. It's just providing Ryung a concave once again. So Archons will fall. Bio gets on top, and Ryung, it's a bit of a sloppy game, and Stats did an incredible job of coming back. But at the end of the day, Ryung, he holds on. He earned that rematch with Agumio in the final match of the GSL. See, Group C.